It's Max Verstappen taking his 9th consecutive victory dating back to 2023. He cruised to his 56th career win at the 2024 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, but it is actually an unexpected debut that stole the headlines in Jeddah. Welcome to episode number 140 of the BMF1Show podcast. I'm your host, Chris Cato, and today I'm joined by my fellow backmarkers, Tyler and Shaker. We're going to be breaking down all the events from the 2024 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, but of course, before we get into all that, let me bring in my fellow co-hosts, Tyler, Shaker. Good afternoon to you guys back in Ottawa, Canada. How's everyone doing today?
Doing good today. Yeah, sun's shining, and we have another Max Verstappen win. But it's great to see some interesting topics on track for this race that we can discuss.
Yeah, I mean, like Tyler said, it's beautiful outside. We got a nice 7 degrees, and that's unexpected for a March in Ottawa. So yeah, not a surprising weekend, I guess, for the first place. But yeah, other than that, better race than the first one that we had. A little bit better.
Agreed with you there. And one thing I do not miss about Canada is the weather. It's been a nice 20 degrees here today, and spring has arrived well earlier than it does over there. But enjoy the sun while you guys have it. So definitely I think a better race than what we saw in Bahrain. Especially we had a lot more on-track battles. This, of course, a very different circuit, so we were kind of excited to see the track characteristics and how they played a factor in team performance. We kind of got much of the same in terms of the top 5, but a little bit different as we got toward the back of the grid there, but we'll get to that a little bit later. And, it's funny because last week we had a lot of funny moments on the podcast just talking about the crazy soap opera going on off the track, and it certainly continued this week into Saudi Arabia. There's a bunch of other things that come out, but we're done with all of that crap for a year, I think, on this channel. And we're just going to focus on the on-racing stuff here. So, Tyler, let's just start with you, and we'll get your just initial thoughts on the race itself. What's kind of stood out to you while watching those laps around the Jeddah Corniche circuit for this year's Grand Prix?
I love watching the cars go around that track. I find it's such a aesthetically pleasing track with how fast the cars are going by and how tight the track is, and there's no room for error, as we saw with Lance Stroll, who unfortunately touched the barrier on his left side and put him right into the wall and out of the race. So millimeters makes everything at Saudi Arabia. You can gain tenths in in no time, really. We saw during qualifying, Fernando Alonso after Sector 2 was only a tenth behind Max, but obviously a strong third sector or a weak third sector by the Aston Martin saw Fernando start in 4th rather than challenge for that pole position. But I do really just enjoy that track and how it leads to seems to be always a safety car of some sort, but some on-track battles that we get to see. Now, I was a little disappointed that we didn't get as many battles as we could. I mean, it would have been nice to see George Russell and Piastri and Alonso get into that scrap. I think we were all kind of hoping they would get into, but it was a lot of chasing, especially from Oscar Piastri for most of that race. So I think he said that he knows exactly what a rear of a Mercedes looks like after this race, which is great. But other than that, I thought there were some good battles, some great teamwork from the Haas as well. I thought even though we had 20 seconds in penalties, Kevin Magnussen did a fantastic team drive to get Nico Hülkenberg that last world championship point to finish in 10th place. I think that's a very, very good team point for Haas, who looked decently strong in Saudi Arabia. I thought they had some good pace in their cars throughout the race as well. So other than that, just you mentioned off the top of the show, a phenomenal debut for Ollie Bearman. I mean, put into the fire last second. Obviously, we hope Carlos Sainz gets better soon, and hopefully he's not missing another race. I'm not sure if that's confirmed or not yet, Chris, but Shaker, to see Ollie Bearman come into his first Grand Prix like that, a debut, get points on his debut in a Ferrari, it was pretty cool to see, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's always really nice to see like a 16-year-old or 17-year-old kid come out and get some points in their first race, and just just out of nowhere too, gets the call up. Doesn't happen very often. I just want to comment on Oscar's, I think you guys probably all saw the tweet too, where he said he's now a Mercedes rear wing expert.
No, that's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, it was he had a fantastic weekend overall. I mean, there's not much he can do, and like you said, very aesthetically pleasing race for the big wides when they do show the track and all going around the corners and such like that. But for Oliver Bearman, to come in 7th place on his debut is just shocking. First of all, where's everybody else? I mean, I think he's already won Rookie of the Year. So.
Yeah, it was a surprise because we knew Carlos Sainz was ill heading into free practice on Friday, missed the media day, and then ended up doing free practice on Friday. And then you wake up on Saturday and you get the news that he's got the appendicitis, similar to what Alex Albon had last season in 2022. And then it's like, wow, okay, so you have this rookie, this guy who just got pole position in F2. Now he's thrown straight into the SF24. What can he do? And a lot of people were expecting, especially as we went into qualifying, all right, we expect him around P20, let's say, back of the grid. What can he do really in his first outing with such little time? But straight on the onset from free practice 3, he looked really solid and comfortable in the car. And the thing that I liked about Bearman throughout the weekend is you didn't see him overdriving. You didn't see him trying to do too much and trying to impress too much. So he kept it very simple and drove within the limits of himself and the car as well. And it worked out great for him because he ended up, like you said there, Shaker, scoring P7, 6 points on his debut, the most points scored by a teenager on his debut. 3rd youngest driver in Formula One history, of course, behind Stroll and Verstappen. And I covered this in my video earlier today, and I thought this was probably the most interesting stat of all of them from the Bearman debut was Oliver Bearman became the first F1 driver to share the grid with the world champion of his birth year, being, of course, Fernando Alonso in 2005. So it's pretty crazy too, right? The day Ollie Bearman was born, Alonso got P2 at the Spanish Grand Prix in 2005. So that, it makes us feel old, to be honest with you, seeing a driver from 2005 be in Formula One. But yeah, let's continue on that topic here. Like I said, it did a really good job. Unconfirmed yet whether Carlos Sainz will be in Australia or not. It was crazy for me just quickly to see him in the paddock the next day at the race. I mean, after appendicitis surgery, I was like, wow. I mean, good for you, Carlos, for attending the race and not lying in bed somewhere. But where do you see the trajectory of Ollie Bearman's career going now? Of course, excellent debut. He put on a really good showing for interested teams. I'm looking at Haas right there. We just mentioned them first off the top of the show, but they've got the relationship with Ferrari. Bearman is a Ferrari Academy driver. Where do you see Bearman's future going from here? Is he guaranteed a seat for next year already?
I think after that performance, it'd be hard to deny him a seat, Chris. The way how calm and collected he was, seemed to have his wits about him. I really liked his comment where in, what was it? He said now I don't look at the comments right, but I think it was like in F2, you drive the car to a max, and in F1, the car, you drive to the driver's max. Is that right, Chris?
Maybe something like that, yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, so something along the lines of where, you really have to drive to the driver's talent rather than the car's talent, I guess is what it was. So go look up the quote if you're listening to this, because Ollie Bearman obviously will have the correct quote. But nonetheless, you have to think that, is there a Haas seat that's going to open, or even is there a Sauber seat that's going to open? With who knows how many years Bottas has left on his contract, or what the plan is with Zhou. But we have seen that affiliation, of course, with Sauber and what was Alfa Romeo back when Charles Leclerc was there before he moved into a Ferrari seat. So the possibilities are there as well. But I think that he should be in a seat next season. And we're maybe forgetting a little bit about these young talent guys. This is the first season in I forget how many years where we haven't had a rookie on the grid. I guess until Ollie Bearman. But especially for the opening race. And you want to see, we forget how much young talent there is coming up. And we've seen a little bit of a gridlock here in Formula One, which is great. At least drivers are getting their chances to, not one and done. They're getting their chances to prove themselves at the top level of motorsport. But it's going to be really interesting to see with such an open drivers market in 2025, where Ollie Bearman will sit going next year.
I'm starting the rumor mill now. He's going to go to Mercedes.
He's going to Mercedes.
No, in all honesty, I think Haas is a great option for him, especially in 2025. He'll be 18 years old. Nico Hülkenberg is closing on to, I'm pretty sure, his late 30s. I think he's 40 already. Might be completely wrong, but
late 30s, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, with them, with both Magnussen and Hülkenberg getting towards the end of their age, I think he's a solid replacement. Because we know they tried to do that a couple of years ago, and it didn't work out for them in the long run, which is unfortunate for one of the drivers. I think Haas is a great call. I'm still being in the Ferrari program. I think he definitely ends up there. I saw some pictures of his what do you call it? What do they put around the seat? I'm forgetting the name of it right now. But
the headrest,
the protected headrest, and where it was like absolutely battered because obviously he's not used to the high G's of a Formula One car. So he still has a little bit to go. But to see him step in and do that for his first race was very impressive. And I'm sure Ferrari, their decision for next year for Lewis Hamilton and seeing what Oliver Bearman can do. I'm sure they're still, making sure that Hamilton contract doesn't go to, only stays for like a year or two to see where he ends up. So.
Yeah, and here's the thing that you were just talking about there, Shaker. For listeners on the audio platforms, you can head to a YouTube channel and watch our video to see what we're talking about here. You'll be easily able to find this picture on Twitter, and you can see the start of the race there, Oliver Bearman's left side of that headrest, and then at the end of the race there, it's almost kind of halfway dented in with, of course, the G-force coming from these Formula One cars that obviously produce so much downforce, but also the circuit too, right? I mean, it's a very high-speed track. You're pulling a lot of G going left, going right. So this was probably one of the hardest races to debut at because Formula 2, Formula 1, there is a significant difference in terms of the G-forces there. So Oliver Bearman was struggling quite a lot physically at the end of the race, which makes his debut and his performance all that more impressive that he was able to do that. And the thing about the headrest too, it is made of foam, so it can deform a little bit. It's not like it's made of a hard carbon fiber or anything like that. So that's why you're seeing the deformation there. But we also got his opening lap here, which, of course, we didn't really see much on the if you're watching F1 live, but we get to see a little bit now of his race start. And I think that he had a very scruffy kind of first lap here going into the first corner. If we can actually get it to play here, maybe it won't. Okay, it looks like it's playing now. And he had a little bit of a rough time here after he exited turn 1 and 2. He got a lot of oversteer at the end here, almost lost the car a couple of times with a couple of snaps at the rear. But afterwards, he really settled in with that soft tire run, especially after the safety car. He was able to get into a good rhythm and a good groove and then set some really good lap times. I don't know if you guys saw some of the overtakes he had on Zhou and then afterwards on the Haas as well. So, he was measured, but he was also racy at times, and I like to see that.
Yeah, I found that he brought a lot of that F2 mentality where it's such short distances of races, you have to be aggressive and overtake right away and try to get those positions. And I noticed in the first 5 or 6 laps, or at least until the Stroll incident, that he was very, very aggressive, trying to get that overtake on Yuki Tsunoda and was really working at the wheel. And you can see him seesawing a bunch. He was being very, very aggressive with those front tires. Well, either all tires, really, with the rear tires as well. And kind of reminded me of an F2 start where you really are trying to get as many positions as you can on the opening lap. It is such a short race. You have to be aggressive. But I really like the strategy that Ferrari did to put him on the soft tires. I thought that was, and we don't give Ferrari strategists a lot of credit here on the show. But I want to give them credit for this one because I thought it was a really smart move to bring the confidence to the young driver, have the grippiest tires, give him the best chance to overtake on the opening lap. And you really saw how you could get the tires into form a lot quicker. I love how aggressive he was here as well. I mean, calculated, he's seeing a couple overtakes. That was an easy one on Zhou. But I just thought it was just a fantastic idea by the Ferrari strategist to put him on that soft set of tires to boost his confidence.
Yeah, credit where credit is due. And I thought Ferrari did a pretty good job with him, honestly, with a rookie in his first session, of course, being pretty calm with him and, of course, very measured, giving him all the details and information that he needed. And Bearman even said post-race that he felt that really good on the soft tire, actually. He would have wished to go longer. But, of course, safety car came out as well after, so they had to change. And wasn't easy having to do that many laps on the hard tire. Tire wear is quite low around Jeddah, so that was one of the good things for him. He didn't have to worry about it too much. And if you look at the lap times, I was doing that in analysis earlier today, he actually got quicker in the later parts of the stint because Norris and Hamilton came in lap 37, lap 38. They bolted on fresh set of softs, and he had a lot of work to do to try and fend them off. And of course, keep them behind him on a fresh set of tires. And he did that. And he held on for 6 points in the end. So incredible job by Oliver Bearman. I'm excited to see where the rest of his career is going to go after this. And obviously we wish Carlos Sainz the best. And we hope to see him back in the car in Australia. But if he doesn't, it'll be exciting to see Bearman get a full weekend in Formula One as well. So yeah, any final thoughts on Bearman's debut before we move on to the rest of the race happenings?
No, I don't think so. I'm really just interested to see what kind of happens next season, and if is he going to get some FP1 running time for that kind of rookie thing that all teams have to do in throughout the season. So I'm looking forward to more on track action. And I'm going to definitely be keeping my eye on him in F2 now for the rest of the season.
All right, then we'll move on to the next thing from the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. And we do have to talk a little bit about the race winner. I know that we didn't really see him much in this race, and we probably won't see him for the next couple ones either. But we do have to give a lot of credit and praise to Max Verstappen and his performance. 9th consecutive victory, as I said in the intro of this podcast, which is crazy because when Sebastian Vettel set that record in 2013, we thought, wow, what a record. That's probably not going to be touched. And it wasn't touched for another 10 years. And now Verstappen has equaled that record in a span of less than 12 months, and going into Australia is very likely and is the favorite to match his own record of 10 consecutive wins. And his pole position on Saturday was a hell of a lap. We didn't see it at all on the main feed, but his pole position here at the 2024 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix was actually quicker than the pole in 2021 set by Lewis Hamilton here in Jeddah. So a little bit of redemption there for Verstappen after he messed up that lap that wasn't in 2021. But he's been absolutely clinical, and all the drama even surrounding this weekend of Helmut Marko leaving and then Verstappen coming out saying that would be a big problem, then I would be leaving too. But when it comes to the on-track stuff, super clinical, and I think that, he's going to be really tough to beat here. About 0.3 of a second was the gap between him and the next closest car, Ferrari. And of course, his teammate was okay. I think I want to talk about Perez a little bit later too. But I think it's tough, right? When we were in the Hamilton era as well, we kind of get sick of seeing him winning. We're at that stage now with Verstappen. We're sick of seeing him winning. But it still is pretty incredible just to see how good he's operating, and the team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 13 and a half, 14-second difference to his teammate. He took off after lap 1 as well. Obviously, with the DRS being moved from being activated after lap 3, after lap 2, it's after lap 1 now. So it's important to get away from Max that much quicker to try and get rid of that DRS gap. And maybe that was a rule put in just to try and hold Max back a little bit and get some decent racing for the first few laps. But he got off quick, a great start to jet away from Charles Leclerc, and really the rest was history. And I mean, we don't see him much during the race, but everything just seems so smooth for him, and it's so easy for him that he's just controlling his pace, managing his pace all throughout, managing his tires, and is such an all-around fantastic driver. Now, I will say, third fastest lap of the race, so he didn't get the full sweep of the board for this one for Max. So it must be disappointing for him that he didn't get the fastest lap as well.
Shame on Max. He's really slipping up lately.
Yeah.
Like, how could he not get the fastest lap? Well, I know he's probably just he probably went back home on the simulation. He's like, I'm going to make sure I get it on the sim because I didn't get it in the race.
But Liam Lawson in the car.
Yeah. I mean, like you guys said, absolute clinical weekend for him. He works very well with the team, has no issues. I mean, with everything that's happened in the last few weeks, really just puts his head down when it comes down to the race and just focuses right in. It's unbelievable to see that kind of professionalism with everything that's happening with the team and all the comments that are, being made around in the paddock as well. It's not just in the media. He's obviously hearing it from the drivers and everything too, and the rest of the teams on what's going on. So, it's really nice to see that it's not affected him by any way. So.
Yeah, like there's something that came out yesterday or earlier this morning from a German outlet. I don't know which one it was, which probably means it's not credible, but it was something about how Horner is going to be fired before the Australian Grand Prix. Now, is it clickbait, this article? Probably. It's probably all clickbait, and Red Bull denied that this is going to happen and all that stuff. So, I mean, again, like we said in podcast 1, we have to be very careful of what we are reading and not jump to conclusions on all these crazy things that are happening at the Red Bull camp, because we should just let things settle their way out, and we'll see what happens.
The one I read right before I came on was that apparently Ferrari is not going to go in for Adrian Newey because of everything that's happening at Red Bull.
Oh my God.
It's all over the place, and it's so funny because like it's almost like silly season in football because it just runs all year. And then Formula One, we only expected maybe like twice a year, right? At the beginning of the season, the mid-season. So it's just funny to see go with like that. It's running all year now compared to in football. It's all the time. So.
Yeah, Tyler, actually, I just remember the name of that German publication. It's Das Bullshit.
That's the one. Yes, that's right.
Very, very credible. They've been around a while.
Yeah,
you can trust them.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, I know. I heard those two this morning as well, scrolling through F1 Twitter. And even like I said, throughout the weekend, they had that whole Marco thing where it looks like Marco was going to be suspended because he was accused of the one leaking the information to the media, and then Verstappen, of course, responded to those comments saying, well, if Marco leaves, that's a big problem because, of course, he's very loyal to him. So, yeah, I mean, he's handled it really well, and, of course, it hasn't affected the on-track performance, which is the most important thing. But, yeah, I mean, it's just such a shit show, guys, and I've gotten to the point where I'm just kind of tired of it because I mean, we had our fun last week too, and I put out the video kind of almost as a joke, right, with that clickbait thing that we talked about and just kind of bouncing around a couple of scenarios, which is fine. I mean, it's sometimes fun to speculate and theorize about what's going on, but I maintain that until we see a full disclosure of the investigation and of the report, and the other new thing that the female employee that was involved with this was suspended by Red Bull with pay. So until we see all of this full transparency, we get to read the 100-page investigation. I mean, it's just useless to be doing all this stuff for clicks or putting out these rumors. So yeah, from now on, we're just going to talk about the on-track stuff, and if we get some sort of transparency, then we can form some opinions. But that hasn't happened yet. So it's wild. I've certainly, since we've started this channel and the podcast, we haven't seen a silly season or off-track action like we've seen to start this year.
Well, breaking news. I just got it, actually, as we're recording. Live as we are recording right now. Notification just came to my phone. Christian Horner is still part of Red Bull. Still, I just check it, just making sure he's still good. We're still good. Yeah.
Still good. I mean, the thing that you posted, Chris, is not a clickbait thing anymore because Max basically said the same thing like 3 days later. So
yeah, that's true. Again, Max has been watching the podcast. He knows what's going on.
Yes. Yeah.
He's not a clickbait article anymore because it's the same words have been backed up by a professional. So
yeah, you know what, you're right, and I will maintain that we never do clickbait on this channel because everything that was in the title of that video was exactly what we talked about in the video. Yep. So
exactly.
So no clickbait here.
Yeah, don't clickbait season.
Hey man, like I said, if you want the views and if you want to make the money, that's what goes nowadays.
That's true.
That's unfortunate, but I mean, we'll keep plugging along here. This little honest little YouTube channel we got here, but and but I wanted to say when you guys are saying, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to transition, but we can keep going if you want to.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. It wasn't really related, but you mentioned there that Max Verstappen watching or listening to our podcast. He might be listening to our podcast around like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning on race day after he finishes his iRacing campaign for the day. I don't know if you guys saw that, where he was. So I think that after qualifying that night, he was, I think, up to like 2-3 in the morning, like playing iRacing. And then the day of the Grand Prix at like noon, he was on a lobby playing or something like that before he went to the track. So, I mean, this guy is so committed to his sim racing that it's...
he brings it with him. He must be bringing the setup with him.
Well, he was on a controller, believe it or not. He didn't have his rig.
Oh, that's awesome.
No.
Controller.
No, competing against like people who are like top like 25, he's
probably still better than them.
I gotta find it here somewhere.
Side note, I just got my my iRacing setup is back online here after a little hiatus. So
nice.
With the new rain technology coming in, I just figured as a Canadian I'm used to that slippery stuff, so I should be good in the wet. I crashed my own race.
It's a new video series coming to the channel.
Yeah, how slow can Tyler go around the track?
You know what? That might actually be a hit. That's a good idea.
That's true.
Let me see. I don't know if I could find the pictures or not, but I do have this one where Max was asked by I think this Viaplay, the Dutch publication here, and I'll just let the captions go. It's just kind of talking about his iRacing things at 3 or 4 in the morning. Okay, so he was on Twitch at Wednesday evening, he said. But still, I mean, he was up there late. Yeah, and he says a little bit of fun. I mean, but he's good, though. It's not just the fact that he does sim racing. It's that he's very good at it, too.
Oh, yeah. Unbelievable at it. Have you seen the little like photo comparison of his setup compared to Lando Norris's setup?
No.
Oh, Lando's got like a wheel with a single monitor on a desk, and then Max has 3 screens with a bucket seat and fancy pedals and stuff like that. So that's pretty funny.
And his
Lando's
world championship
the
trophy.
Streaming team too.
Lando's on. Well, they both have their own team, I guess. Was it Team Redline for Max, and was Lando with
Quadrant?
Green?
Quadrant.
Yeah.
I think they sponsored McLaren as well, or maybe they did at one point.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, it's an interesting time that we're living in to see the top flight Formula One drivers so involved in computer racing games, but it's cool.
Yeah,
keeps them sharp. Yeah. So yeah, let's transition. Did you want to go somewhere specific, Tyler?
I did. Well, we were talking about shit shows, so I just wanted to bring up Alpine. And just you got to feel bad for Pierre. I mean, the loses gearbox on the lap to the grid. I mean, that's just like, not only is the car slow, I mean, is it not reliable as well now too with that Alpine? I mean, Esteban was okay.
Was ever reliable.
Fair, yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, Esteban was kind of caught in that DRS train, so he kept up to pace, but I mean, that's a tough blow for your car to not even start the race. That was the first retirement of 2024, and it happened to be. And they let him go a lap too, do his burnouts and stuff like that. And like, it was funny because Karun's like on the main feed, Karun was talking about like, oh, well, if it was a serious issue, they wouldn't be letting him do burnouts that just destroy the drivetrain. And then he pulls it into the pits right at the end of the first lap. And like in back of my head, I'm like, geez, well, it looks like that drivetrain's destroyed then if he's doing burnouts on a broken gearbox. So yeah, tough go for Alpine again. Another tough week.
I was gonna say just a very tough week for Alpine. I feel bad for Gasly and Ocon at this point. I mean, Ocon at some points looked like he was having a somewhat good race, but the car just couldn't do anything to compete with any of the ones around him. So
no, and I mean he finished in the top 15, so that's something.
Yeah,
but I was just laughing because I don't know if you guys saw the team radio video that F1 put out. You had basically pre-race. Pierre Gasly and the team, they had this radio exchange where Gasly was like, oh, like, positive, like, all right, guys, like, let's get ready. Let's be ready here. You never know what's going to happen. Something crazy might happen. And then literally it was like 2 laps later, Pierre box, we have to retire the car. We have to retire the car.
Poor guy. Poor guy.
I think it's
trying to
perfect
have
for
some
Alpine.
optimism.
Yeah, and then just absolutely thrown into the bin right out the first lap. And now Pierre Gasly sits 21st in the championship with 20 drivers competing.
Yeah, Ollie Bearman is ahead of a lot of drivers now. I just want to get the actual.
He's in the top
up.
10. He's 10th, I think, right?
Is he 10th? Let's see. Hold on.
I still think top team radio of this race was 100% Aston Martin after Lance Stroll's crash. Okay, bring it into the pit. Bring it into the pit. He's like, I can't. I crashed.
Like, yeah, that's peak team radio. That was so good. And you can tell like he didn't mean any harm. He was just so frustrated that he binned it into the wall. But
no, that was I saw that and I'm like, oh my god, that would be my exact reaction. Like, what I just said I crashed into the wall.
We already have a candidate for Radio of the Year.
Yeah, that was great.
Oh man, I love that. That was so funny. Yeah, and it was such a genuine reaction too. Like he's like, "Fuck no!" He's like, "I'm in the wall."
Too
man.
good. Yeah, Ollie Bearman's was 6 points, puts him 10th, only 2 points behind 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton, and ahead of Hulkenberg and Stroll, the only other two to score points this season. And like you said, yeah, Pierre Gasly 21st in this. I wonder at the end of the season, with Ollie Bearman racing one race, maybe two, obviously, how many drivers he will be ahead of in the driver's standings at the end of the season. Where is he going to finish with just one or possibly two races completed?
I say he's above 4, maybe 5.
Above 4 drivers?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean you got to consider Alpine has 2 drivers, right? So there's 2 already gone.
There's 2.
And then
Logan
Sargent,
maybe.
Yeah, Logan Sargent. Maybe one of Haas doesn't get a point, but you never know.
One of the Salvers maybe.
3 to 5. 3 to 5 is a good number.
Yep. I would read that.
Right there. Okay. Yeah, this will be interesting. Now, if he races another race and he gets another 7th place finish, it might be a lot more drivers.
Yeah, I would say it'd be 100% 5 if he does another race. Like 100% above 5 drivers for sure.
Yep. Yeah, he might even finish ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. There's a little transition here that I wanted to go to as the next thing that I want to talk about, because here's a driver and the team in general really had a terrible weekend. I mean, they showed some decent pace and testing, of course. Okay in Bahrain. They had the big drama with the team orders, and then they come to Jeddah, and they were just miles off the pace. And Ricciardo really struggled a lot. I mean, I was surprised to see him struggling. Now, if you guys didn't see this, it's why I wanted to show it to you, because it wasn't all his fault. He did have a very slow pit stop here, and I'll play it for you guys. He had a 41.6 second pit stop, which of course is a big factor. Neither did I, because I saw him spin, and then I looked at his lap times, and I was looking at where he was on the grid. I'm like, man, like Danny Rick is doing awful in this race. And then I saw this online afterwards, and I'm like, okay, I won't be as harsh with him on the podcast because he did have this poor pit stop. And as you see, I don't know what the issue was, but it had to be, I think, on the right rear, because you see they put the car down. They were having some issues. They couldn't let him go, and this was all during the safety car period, right? So he lost out a lot of time, and ended up finishing. I think he was second last, only behind Bottas. So a very tough race for Danny Rick, but just in general, and Ricciardo knows this too, because you heard him in the post-race interviews. I mean, he knew that he was off the pace, and he said that they found some things with the car in between weekends that they hope will be more positive as they go toward the further races. But a difficult start so far because Yuki Tsunoda was out racing him. So Ricciardo's really got to step up here in these next couple of races, because we're talking about the Red Bull seat, but we're also talking about Liam Lawson's on the sidelines. And if Ricciardo wants an extended future in F1, he has to beat Tsunoda handedly and relatively easily. So the next few races for him are going to be really big to build back his confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. It was ended up being third last in front of both Saubers there. So, but I mean, that's a huge 41 seconds is a long time when you're usually spending 4 seconds, right, or 3 seconds in the pit stop. So I wonder where he could have finished. Could he have been in that DRS train? And we all know Danny Rick's braking abilities. Maybe he would have got up a few more positions and would have beat Tsunoda without that 41-second time or 41-second slow pit stop that he had. But as you mentioned, Chris, he was still off the pace, and we saw a spin at the end of the race. But positives is that his home track's up next, his home race in Australia, and he always obviously comes out strong for that race. So hopefully that gives a little bit of positive momentum for Daniel to try and have a solid rest of the season and just kind of shake off these first two races.
Yeah, I guess they probably didn't show it during the broadcast. I guess they were focusing on the Alonso and Perez incident, I guess. Perez or Verstappen incident that happened. But yeah, it's unfortunate because I had no idea that happened either until I sort of saw that. But 47 seconds, very long time, but very much like to see Formula One put out or, even RB put out something about it. To say what actually happened to their vehicle and if they were just playing it safe and not putting it to the limit to see if they can put their changes in for next weekend for Australia. Because it's not like Danny Rick to not push his car to the limit unless he's been told not to. So it'd be very interesting to see where it happens because even Logan Sargent finished ahead of them. That's very surprising, as well as Esteban Ocon. So it'd be really nice to hear what happens with RB Honda. So.
It wasn't the only issue that Alpine had in the pits. Obviously, at the start of the race, they released Yuki Tsunoda right in front of Fernando Alonso, and Alonso had to slam on his brakes, to avoid that, to avoid a collision there, and was very, very loud on the radio saying how much he had to brake to not cause a crash there as well. So all over the place for RB in that one.
Yeah, they were. And I looked it up on Twitter. It was actually Lando Norris, who was the one that, hit slam on the brakes there. So a tough weekend for RB. Huh. Yeah, it was Lando.
Because I think Fernando Alonso was with Red Bull. Because I think that was with Perez or something.
Was that the Perez?
There was another one, yeah.
Yeah, the Alonso one was, I want to say, it was with either a Red Bull or Ferrari. But I don't think it was RB.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. Like you guys mentioned there, the home race is coming up for him. So we'll see the direction of RB because that whole dynamic in that midfield is kind of shaping up to be interesting because Haas isn't looking as bad as we thought it was. And even a team like Williams, for example, their race pace was actually stronger than the likes of RB. So if that trend continues on for the rest of the season, that will be interesting to see how Ricciardo deals with that with such a hot driver market coming up at the end of 2024. And that brings us to my last point that I wanted to talk to you guys about before we open it up to discussion for anything is the conversation of the second Red Bull seat. Much made of it last year and even going on into this season, right? Perez's contract is out at the end of 2024. Who is going to replace him? Red Bull's maybe replacing him in the midseason. But I must say that Sergio Perez's start to the season has been really strong and has been positive so far. And I'm really hoping that he continues on this trend. I know the last two seasons he started out strong and then really tapered off and fell off toward the middle and the end of the season. But I'm hoping that this season will be different just because I hope he went into it from a different mindset of almost in a way accepting that he's not going to beat Max Verstappen for the world championship. And that in some sort of ways maybe helps him relax a little bit and just to drive more naturally instead of over driving and trying to do too much with the car like he was last season. Because you saw him, his qualifying, okay, he's always been a little bit off, but he managed to bring it back in the race. 2 straight finishes for Red Bull, 1-2. Let's see if that continues. So I'm really hoping that Perez kind of can continue this trend where he kind of just says, okay, Max Verstappen is operating at such a high level. I accepted that I'm not going to be a world champion, even though I know that's difficult for a professional athlete to do. But I'm just going to settle in. I'm going to maximize the performance of my car, maximize the performance of myself, and I'm just going to do the absolute max that I can, which I think is P2 at the moment, and he's doing that. So if Perez continues like this, and if he's able to score almost 20 podiums this season for Red Bull, I don't see why not. Red Bull would say, okay, Perez, we're going to give you an extension.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it depends what, I guess, exactly what they want out of their team, right? Do they just want to, I'll say everything with Verstappen. I mean, that'll shake things up as well. But it depends if they want to have that inner team battle like what we saw with Lewis and Rosberg, or if they just don't want to deal with that drama at all and have a second driver that will just be there to get results for the team and have a solid career. We saw it with Rubens Barrichello back in Ferrari. I mean, there's another good example. I won't say Mark Webber because that was a little bit more of a heated rivalry between him and Sebastian. Maybe not a good team dynamic there, but I'd say like a Barrichello is kind of the first thing that comes to my mind because I don't want to compare Bottas to that. I found that maybe Bottas was kind of striving for a championship a little bit more than what we've seen Perez. I mean, at least he was closer those years, it seemed like, in comparison. So I really get more of a Barrichello vibe out of that than a Bottas or definitely not a Webber vibe at all. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how like you said, how they kind of want to take their team dynamics going forward. I mean, Perez is not getting any younger himself. I mean, he is, as I look quickly on the old Googles, he just turned 34 years old. So kind of the upper end of that, maybe second or third oldest driver on the grid. I think Hulkenberg is 36, and I'm not sure what Lewis is, late 30s as well. So he's getting up there. Sergio has had a great career so far, and obviously he wants to win a championship, but it just seems kind of a little bit out of the realm for how dominant Max has been.
Yeah, I totally agree. It'd be interesting to. I personally think they keep Perez because in terms of them wanting to secure constructors every year, he's a solid choice. I mean, they pretty much have an assured first place with Max, and I mean almost like a podium or a top 6 finish with Sergio every time, which in the end, last 3 years has gotten them, or last 2 years has gotten them constructors. So I mean, in the end, that's what they want. They want to win as a team. I mean, they already know they're going to win with Max. So I think why not keep Perez until he decides to retire? Because I mean, I don't see Perez. Either just continuing till the very end, which I don't see happening, but I also don't see him retiring early and coming back like Fernando Alonso. And I think with the relationship that he had with, Aston Martin, Racing Point, and whatever it was called way before that, it might be interesting to see what happens with him there. With Fernando Alonso, not too sure of his future next year. So, yeah, I think the Red Bull seat for the is wide open at the moment, and I think it's up to Perez whether he wants to stay or not with his performances.
That's a great point. It really is in his hands. If he keeps doing what he's doing, helping Red Bull score 1-2 finishes, secure a Constructors' Championship, then absolutely they're going to retain him because when Perez is on top of his game, he's very solid for Red Bull. And every now and again, he might get that race victory. Maybe if Max has an off weekend, Checo's there to pick up the pieces and score another race victory. So I hope it continues this way because we really saw him struggle, last season in particular when he thought he had a shot at the championship, then he crashed in Monaco and then went totally downhill after that. So if he can just kind of pull that back a little bit this year and say, okay, I'm just going to settle in, focus on myself. I'm not going to really be analyzing Max's data and telemetry and analyzing every lap, mine versus his. I'm just going to do my own thing and see where the cards fall. I think will be much better for him. So a good start so far for Perez. Wasn't too far off, was much closer this weekend in Jeddah. So as we get to the next couple of tracks that aren't necessarily suited to him, then we'll see where he ends up. But he'll have some stiff competition there with Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. But overall, a good start to the season for the Mexican. So that about does it on my list of things for the 2024 Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. A little bit better than the first race of the season, but of course, still a little bit of a snoozer in many regards, of course, because of such of the dominant nature of the RB20. But I'll leave the final couple of words to you guys. Is there anything you saw during the race you want to talk about, or anything else related in the F1 world? If you want to start any new rumors, now's your opportunity.
No new rumors here, but I do want to give a shout out to a current University of Ottawa Gigi, who is she was a 3-time medalist nationally in college or in university rugby, I should say, and she's right now completing her industrial placement at Mercedes. Victoria Huff, who was a U Ottawa student right now. She will be graduating later this year from electrical engineering, and then she's doing her placement right now with Mercedes. It's pretty cool. We would like to highlight Canadians in the F1 world, and it's pretty cool to see someone who went to school in Ottawa, where we're all from here, that she's doing well over at Mercedes. So she's been taking part in aiding designing the 2024 car and doing virtual testing and being part of official on-track test days, which is pretty cool. So a big shout out to Victoria Huff, and hopefully she sees a great career, not only in Formula One, and hopefully continues for her, but in general, she has a bright future ahead. So pretty cool to see Canadians working their way also off the track in Formula One.
That is very cool. Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up because I didn't know that. So cool to see local connection on such a big stage on the world motorsport stage there. So awesome to see. Well done to her. And yeah, Victoria, hit us up. Let us know if Max Verstappen is coming to Mercedes anytime soon.
We'd love to be the inside rumor mill for all that.
Yeah.
Get it started, and we're with everything else that's going on. So
we can create a Google Drive folder if we need to.
Yeah. We'll share WhatsApp messages, okay?
Yeah. Shaker, anything else from you that caught your eye in the F1 world lately?
No, but not in the F1 world, but I mean, I do want to give a shout out to Roman Grosjean because I was at the gym earlier today or early yesterday, and I saw him there like being interviewed for like 5 minutes while the race was going on. So just give a shout out to him, and always like Roman Grosjean. I'd love to see him, come back to the Formula One grid, maybe just as the paddock, just as a visitor one day. But yeah, no, not a shout out, but I saw him the other day, and I just remembered him. Love that guy.
He did have a tough start to his opening race of the season in St. Petersburg. A couple of collisions and then retiring from the race. So hopefully a better rest of the season for Roman over in IndyCar.
Yeah. I think that's why he was being interviewed for so long. So
maybe.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah, a good time to be a motorsport fan. The IndyCar season just got underway. Same with MotoGP. Formula One is, of course, well underway, and plenty of NASCAR races going on too, and IMSA and World Endurance Championship. So, good time to be Aussie V8s. There you go, and that's a perfect segue. Our next race is in Australia. That's right. We are going to Albert Park in about 10 days' time or so. By the time you guys are listening to this podcast, so a very interesting circuit, kind of a mixed circuit there. A lot of medium speed, flowing corners. Not usually representative of a car's performance, but nonetheless, always an exciting venue. So let's see how the pecking order shapes up, and if we get any surprises, and whether or not Max Verstappen will be able to equal his 10th consecutive wins record. So should be good there. Of course, Backmarkers F1 Show podcast will be back for that as well, to bring you all of the action post-race and plenty of other videos in the meantime coming in between now and then. Our podcast can be found on your favorite podcast player out there, whether it's iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Prime, Google Podcasts, whatever it is, you'll be able to find it online. And of course, we are on YouTube with the video version as well. So subscribe to us there. All social media found in the description below. Tyler and Shaker, thank you guys again for joining me today. And any more final words from you guys?
No, let's get something exciting happening in Australia. Give us something to talk about this on track.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big race for two home Aussies. Oscar Piastri had a pretty big race here last year, so I'm excited to see how he does as well. But yeah, no, I mean, Australia's always got something exciting, even though if the race isn't all that, but there's always something happening there. So yeah, I mean, COVID started there, remember? So
always some drama, something going on. But who knows what we're going to get in between now and Australia off the track as well. So definitely an exciting time for being an F1 fan. So we'll be back then for the Australian Grand Prix recap show. This has been episode 140 of the BMF1Show podcast. That's been Tyler McDonald, Shaker Barty at the bottom. I've been Chris Cato, your host. Thank you very much for watching and listening. We appreciate the support, and we can't wait to join you guys again for more F1 action. Until then, it is bye for now. Have a great day.